The first thing I want to talk to you about is what's in the city budget that you've proposed to deal with homelessness, as I know it's a big expansion over past years.
Great. So the current proposed budget for fiscal year 20 has an additional or overall $63 million that are dedicated to homelessness and homelessness related efforts. And I really think of those in three buckets, if you will. One is on the upstream. We want to make sure people can stay in their homes. And so providing rental assistance, providing home repair programs. How do we prevent any displacement that's happening from people that may then turn into experiencing homelessness on the streets, because we don't want that to happen in the first place. The second bucket is really about how do we address some real-time issues that are happening in our current community. And so emergency shelters, looking at cleanup related activities in our downtown and in surrounding areas, ensuring that there are the appropriate resources for those that are currently experiencing homelessness. And then the third bucket, which is really the most important one, how do we look to the future of providing enough housing for folks that are experiencing homelessness? So the permanent supportive housing, the support services that are necessary to get people into that housing. That's really what our aim is, to ensure that everyone that is experiencing homelessness has a place to go.
So one of the proposals is to have a shelter of some sort in each of the council districts. What would that look like?
I think how I'm interpreting that is really to ensure that all of our resources that are needed to address the issues that we have for people experiencing homelessness are distributed across the entire city. And so that we're not just focusing our resources in one area versus another. And so whether that's a shelter or some other assistance program, we have to make sure that those programs are distributed throughout our city, because we know that people experiencing homelessness, it's not a unique situation for one area over another. It's happening across our city, and we need to make sure that we're able to address those to the degree that we can in the geographic areas that are critical.
So what do you think have been some of the misconceptions about homelessness in Austin? I know that there was, when the changes were first made to the camping, public camping issue, there were people saying, oh, we're going to be just like Seattle, we're going to be just like Los Angeles. What have been some misconceptions out there?
In my mind, one misconception is the sheer numbers. I mean, we haven't really determined if we're seeing more people experiencing homelessness or that they're just more visible. I'll give an example. As a newcomer to Austin, there are areas where I did not know had been green spaces in the past, or at least maybe not green spaces, but certainly places where people might have the opportunity to camp or have campgrounds. And I was driving down I-35 with a fellow Austinites who had been here for a long time, and he said, these tracks were once, places where a ton of people were camping and just, having their own experience, but now those tracks have become developed. And so, on some level, those individuals that were in those areas went somewhere. And so, not necessarily a matter of more people experiencing homelessness, but we're seeing more of those, whether it's through development or now that we're ensuring that we can have everyone that is experiencing homelessness to be more visible in our community.
So it's my understanding that there was something created, a local government corporation that Councilmember Tovo, Mayor Pro Tem Tovo put on the table. How would that work?
Yeah. We're still trying to determine exactly what the scope and scale of that would look like, but at the end of the day, at a minimum, it is a mechanism for individuals to contribute to these efforts, because we were finding the city cannot be solving this or be the only one that's experiencing resources and putting money towards this effort. And so we want to really make sure that we are looking at our entire community, the philanthropic community, our private sector counterparts. How do we ensure that everyone is addressing this and contributing to that need? And we weren't seeing what the mechanism, how could people donate to this cause? Yes, there are specific nonprofits and service providers, but we wanted to say, if you want to donate in a different way to the city and some of these efforts that we're dealing with, here's another mechanism to do so. So I think at a foundational level, it is a fundraising arm for the city of Austin to be able to say, we can't do this alone. We are putting in $63 million in this next year's budget. I hope that this is an issue that all of our community wants to solve. Another thing that I found was it's really critical for the city departments to work in collaboration with each other. A few years ago, we knew that every department was doing something to ensure that people experiencing homelessness were safe or were accessing resources that were available. And I think that we have grown over the years to look at how we can better align our services within the city to address it in a more holistic way. So not only the appointment of a homeless strategy officer to really oversee those efforts collectively, but having more meetings with watershed protection, our Austin Police Department, our health department that houses a lot of the contracts for the service providers. We need to make sure that we as a city are all on the same page about how we can be addressing this challenge for our community.
So there's even a new newly formed homeless advisory committee, right? What will those folks be doing?
Twofold. One, I think it's really important that we all have clarity about what our goals are. You know, we want to be on the same page with the county, with the state, with the business community, with other nonprofit and philanthropic providers about what are we trying to achieve? What are the metrics that we're going to measure our success with? And so identifying those goals and then, frankly, keeping us accountable to them. There are lots of great strategies out there, but at the end of the day, we need to get people in homes and off the streets. And so we need to make sure that everyone's aligned on how we can get there and hold ourselves accountable. It's not just holding the city accountable, it's holding our service providers accountable, it's holding the state and the county accountable, it's holding everyone that's working to address homelessness in a way that we can say, all right, we're all on the same page and we're all going to be marching forward. That's the real goal of this advisory council.
All right, thanks so much for shedding light on the homeless issue in Austin. I know it's an ongoing thing that I'm sure we'll be continuing to talk about and see some revisions as well to the ordinances.
Yeah.
So.
And what I'm optimistic about is that we are spending so much time and attention to it, because I think in other communities, as you're seeing across the country, this isn't unique to Austin, but we are having the conversation at such a level that everyone is really focused on how do we move forward? How do we make sure that we're putting as many resources to ensure that we don't become the situation in other cities, that we are really staying true to the values of Austin, which is that everyone should feel welcome and included and have a safe place to call home.